International Criminal Court has warned atrocities committed in the Sudanese city of Fasher may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. There have been harrowing reports of mass killings, rapes and abductions as the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces pushed the Sudanese army out of the city last week.
There's a brutal massacre playing out right now in Sudan where hundreds of civilians were murdered in a hospital earlier this week, and that's just part of it.
Why has Africa become the battlefield for endless wars, a continent trapped in a cycle of unrest that never ends? Hundreds of protests, waves of chaos, and countless lives lost continue to haunt this black continent. As we speak these words, let our eyes turn to Sudan, where the roar of explosions once again shakes the land, a new face of an old war. The ongoing war in Sudan has taken another step forward in its escalation. Recent reports from Sudan show severe acts of violence and atrocities. The war, now lasting for more than 2.5 years, continues to leave deep wounds on the nation. Over 40,000 people have been killed, while 14 million others have fled their homes, leaving everything behind. Sudan is facing one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world, having become a symbol of global relief challenges.
Sudan's civil war has entered a new horrific phase. The paramilitary Rapid Support Forces have gone on a killing rampage after taking over the key city of Fasher in western Darfur after over a year and a half of siege. Hundreds of thousands have fled to neighboring Tawila, escaping famine and mass executions. Nick Schifrin has this report, but a warning. Images and accounts in this story are disturbing.
The war in Sudan involves two main factions, the Sudanese Armed Forces SAF and the Rapid Support Forces RSF. The RSF is an irregular paramilitary group that, while not an official national army, operates with similar methods, training, and weapons. In recent days, the RSF completed an 18-month-long assault on Fasher, the capital of the North Darfur region, which was the last stronghold of government forces in Darfur. Disturbing footage shared on social media showed RSF fighters killing civilians who were trying to flee Fasher. The UN Deputy Secretary General in charge of Sudan reported receiving credible information about sexual violence committed against women and young girls, as well as extrajudicial killings where people were executed without trial.
The vicious fighting in Sudan has taken a new disturbing turn. This week, the Sudanese armed forces lost control of a key province to a rival paramilitary group, as reports of harrowing atrocities continue to emerge. The vicious fighting, which has been raging for over 30 months, has left over 40,000 people dead, bringing about claims of genocide and 14 million more displaced. The result is one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world.
Over 6 million people in Sudan are facing extreme hunger. Aid trucks are trapped, infrastructure destroyed, healthcare systems collapsing. The war-torn country is suffering not just from bullets and bombs, but from hunger, disease, and displacement.
Tens of thousands of people are feared trapped in the Sudanese city of Fasher as evidence of atrocity mounts since the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces seized the city last Sunday. Survivors who have fled speak of mass killings, including of children. They speak of sexual violence, beatings and robberies.
The Sudanese Armed Forces and the RSF were once allies, having worked together during the 2021 coup that toppled Sudan's civilian government. However, their leaders, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, head of the National Army, and General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, Hemedti, commander of the RSF, later clashed over how the country should be governed. This power struggle ignited into full-scale war in April 2023, when RSF fighters began deploying across the country and battling the army in the capital, Khartoum. Over the past 2.5 years, fighting has engulfed cities and regions across Sudan, killing thousands of civilians, displacing millions, and plunging the country into famine and extreme poverty. The RSF has been accused of atrocities, including ethnically motivated killings and torture, as it seeks to establish Arab dominance in Darfur, a region home to diverse ethnic groups. In one of the most recent actions by the Biden administration, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken issued a statement accusing the RSF of genocide, saying,
however, is now threatened by a new RSF offensive in Fasher, already resulting in the deaths and displacement of thousands of vulnerable people.
After the RSF captured Fasher, Hemeti released a video stating that he would investigate his soldiers suspected of committing crimes in the city. It has been more than a decade since Sudan split into two nations, Sudan and South Sudan, after a long civil war. Now, as the Darfur region falls under RSF control, there are growing fears that Sudan could again fragment, potentially becoming a third divided country in Africa, losing its national unity once more. Welcome to the world of research. Welcome to the large family of wisdom in narrations. Let's start with the map. Sudan was once one of the largest countries in Africa, a vast nation, among the biggest on the continent. But as the years went by, things changed. Today, Sudan is no longer one country as it once was. It has become two separate nations, North Sudan and South Sudan. North Sudan is predominantly inhabited by people of Arab descent, most of whom are Muslims. In contrast, South Sudan is home to people of African descent, mainly Black Africans, the majority of whom are Christians or followers of traditional African religions. Now let's look back and see how these two countries ended up separating. Sudan gained independence in 1956 after being jointly ruled by Britain and Egypt. From the very beginning, the country was marked by deep inequality between the North and the South. In the North, Arab Muslims held most of the political power and economic privilege, while Black Africans in the South were left behind, voiceless and excluded from the government. This led to rebellions, unrest, and eventually a long civil war between southern rebel groups and the northern government forces. That war dragged on for more than 40 years, finally ending in 2011 when people in the South voted in a referendum for independence, creating the new nation of South Sudan. But only a few years later, things began to change again. Across the country, new waves of conflict and uprisings began to emerge against the government. People were frustrated, seeing no real change even after independence. Many of them, especially Black Africans from the South, said, "We receive no services, we have no voice, and we're not treated as equal Sudanese." At that time, nearly everything, hospitals, schools, government institutions, and leadership positions remained in the hands of the northern elite. Most of the leaders were Arabs who saw no reason to share power or opportunities. As a result, Black Africans in the South felt ignored, discriminated against, and devalued as though they were not equal citizens. They began demanding equal rights and opportunities. But the Arab leaders did not take this well. They became angry, saying, "Are these Black people rebelling against us?" They responded with harsh repression, imprisoning some, killing others, and forcing many to flee into the forests and mountains. As the years passed, this systematic discrimination and persecution pushed the country to the brink of collapse. Instead of finding solutions, the first Sudanese civil war broke out. Things then grew far worse. Many soldiers from the Arab North began targeting Black Southerners, massacring them, raping women, enslaving people, and committing unspeakable acts of violence. Since Sudan's independence in 1956, countless rebel movements arose in the South, all fighting for the same cause, human rights and dignity. They said, "We too deserve to be treated as people, as true Sudanese." But the Khartoum government refused to listen. It continued to treat Black people as inferior, as if they were worthless. In later years, a notorious militia group emerged, the Janjaweed, a name that inspired fear and dread across the region. These fighters were known for their extraordinary brutality. They did not care about age, gender, or status. They killed children, raped women, burned homes, and looted property. Wherever they found a Black African, they treated them as an enemy, showing no mercy or compassion. Since this war began in 2023, more than 150,000 people have been killed, 12 million displaced from their homes, and the country has been struck by famine and drought. Let's go back to the year 2013. At that time, President Omar al-Bashir had been in power for more than 20 years, since 1993. He was known as an authoritarian ruler, a man who governed the country with an iron fist, often through military means. Bashir took a militia group that had been notorious for committing atrocities and rebranded it under a new name, the Rapid Support Forces, RSF. He officially integrated this group into the state security structure, turning it into a legitimate national force in form, if not in spirit. His intention was to change the image of the group so that people would forget about its past crimes. But what he did not foresee was that the RSF would not remain a simple tool in his hands. Instead, it would grow into a powerful force, one that would later challenge the Sudanese army itself. Over time, the RSF seized control of gold mines and other mineral-rich areas across Sudan. This made the group extremely wealthy and financially independent, increasing its influence in politics, the economy, and the military. The RSF was led by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, commonly known as Hemedti, while the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, the regular national army, were led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. In other words, Sudan ended up with two rival military leaders, each commanding his own powerful armed forces. As years passed, these two sides became bitter enemies. In May 2023, full-scale fighting broke out between the RSF and SAF, triggered by disagreements over how and when the RSF would be integrated into the national army and over the control of gold mines and land. Since then, the RSF has captured much of Darfur, while the SAF has fought to reclaim state authority. The situation escalated to the point where the country risked total fragmentation. By 2019, things in Sudan had deteriorated sharply. The population had grown weary of President Omar al-Bashir, who had now ruled for over 30 years. Food prices soared, poverty deepened, and unemployment was widespread. Life in both urban and rural areas became unbearable. In many northern cities, people took to the streets, shouting, "We are tired of Bashir." Then, on April 11, 2019, the Sudanese Army and Security Services announced that Omar al-Bashir had been removed from power. His downfall came after months of nationwide protests that had already cost many lives. After Bashir's ouster, an agreement was reached to establish a power-sharing arrangement between the military and civilians, with the goal of transitioning to civilian democratic rule. However, in reality, both military leaders, Hemedti of the RSF and al-Burhan of the SAF, sought to dominate the transition and ensure they themselves held the most powerful positions. By that time, the RSF had already gained significant power, controlling key territories, economic assets, and gold resources. This gave the group immense capacity to fund its own operations, buy weapons, and maintain loyalty among its troops. While the transitional government struggled to build political stability, the RSF built its own networks of influence, operating independently of central authority. Over time, it became not just a paramilitary group, but a major political and economic player, effectively controlling parts of Sudan's wealth. Because of this, it became extremely difficult to convince the RSF to submit to government authority or integrate into the national army. The group aspired not merely to be part of the state, but to become the ruling power itself. All these factors increased the RSF's ambition to seize full control of the country, as its leaders came to believe they had both the right and to shape Sudan's future on their own terms. RSF said, "We are at the top level. We have everything. There is no reason to give up power and fall back down." But that mindset is what gave birth to war, because each side wants to cling to power. No one accepts to be ruled. Remember that the RSF originated from the Janjaweed militia. The Janjaweed was not only made up of fighters against rebels, they also killed civilians from all rural communities linked to black African ethnic groups such as the Fur, Masalit, and Zagawa. all being black tribes of Sudan. Their main goal was one, to silence black people forever. When the Janjaweed rebranded themselves into the RSF, their brutal acts never stopped. The RSF continued killing, raping women, and forcefully displacing people. Why was it like that? Because the National Army, even though it has also been accused of human rights violations, is still accountable at an international level. When it kills civilians or commits crimes, the news spreads, the world knows, international organizations condemn it, and there is heavy pressure to explain what happened. No matter what, it still represents an official government body with a responsibility to respect international law. But on the other hand, the RSF and its related militias, like the Janjaweed, have no one to answer to, no court to prosecute them, and no shame for their deeds. They killed as if they were slaughtering animals, with no fear of global pressure. That made many citizens feel that, although the government forces were not good either, they were at least the lesser evil compared to the RSF's brutality. The RSF used extreme violence, killing civilians in large numbers, raping women, burning houses, and forcibly displacing people across many regions of Sudan. Countless defenseless citizens became refugees in their own country, while others fled abroad. These acts of cruelty went beyond all limits, leading the whole world to condemn the RSF and accuse it of war crimes and even genocide. In the eyes of the world, the RSF became a symbol of the dark side of military power built on bloodshed and the interests of a few. Now, Sudan's National Army claims that the United Arab Emirates, UAE, is supporting the RSF. They allege that the UAE sends drones, weapons, ammunition, and satellite intelligence to help the RSF fight and kill civilians. Sudan is one of the world's richest countries in gold, ranking third globally in gold production. The UAE is among the largest buyers of Sudanese gold, meaning it has huge interests there. Therefore, the UAE finds it easier to cooperate with the RSF, an unregulated militia, rather than negotiate with an official army that demands agreements and taxes. For them, it's far more profitable to fund a killer militia and make quick millions of dollars than to go through legal and bureaucratic channels. The UAE has also invested heavily in Sudanese land and agriculture, since its own territory is mostly desert. It needs fertile land to grow crops and secure food supplies, and Sudan provides that opportunity. Besides, about 90% of the UAE's food is imported from abroad, including from Sudan. Far from the sight of most of us, in the shadows where few eyes can see, dark plans are forged by the powerful of this world. They ignite endless wars across Africa, turning brothers against brothers, all for interests crafted far beyond the borders of the Black Continent. In the end, where will this lead? And who will be held accountable for the blood of Africans who continue to slaughter one another without peace?